Howdy folks, today we have this beautiful patina amplifier sitting here. I actually bought this personally. I paid for it with my own good money from all the hard work that I do playing as a session bass player and working hard repairing other people's amplifiers and guitars. And finally, I have my very own Mansab 05. Namsab 05. Namsab? What the hell? No. Oh, wait. It's a Bassman. Holy shit, I bought a Bassman. It's a Bassman 50, and you know what? I've been reading a little bit about this, and some people don't like the amp. But I believe the opinion is of that of a guitar player. And that's fine by me, because I'm not a guitar player. I can play a little bit of guitar, and I get hired to play guitar, but I am not a guitarist. I'm a bass player, and this amp for me is going to be my bass amp. So, we've got all original tubes here. They are all RCAs, 7025s, I think that's right, maybe? We'll have a look and see. I don't believe there are any 12AX7s here, maybe not. So you got your three preamp tubes, your phase inverter, phase splitter, whatever you want to call it, depending on the country you live in, and your 6L6 GCs here. Now, I've noticed the tube sockets are very loose. I'm going to replace those tube sockets because this amp is going to be a working amp. It's not going to sit on a shelf looking pretty and, appreciating in value. It's going to get used. So one of the things I'm going to do is replace the tube sockets with nice tight tube sockets. Why am I doing that? Some people can say, oh, well, just tighten up these little tongues here. That's fine, but that's actually not helping the pins contact the tube socket correctly. And in high vibration environments, such as playing on top of a bass amp, these things are going to vibrate and oscillate. Not electrical oscillation. However, if you have a pin that's loose, you are going to experience electrical oscillation. That's going to compromise your output transformer. It's going to compromise the components underneath, which I've already took a glance at, and we will in a second. But let's have a look at the main thing that I want to look at, because I need to order these. And it's the caps under here. Now, I've unscrewed these to make the video easier. However, I have not taken this cap off yet, so I don't know what we're going to find. Let's have a drum roll. Ta-da! Brand new. No, they're not brand new. These are 1975 original caps. So they will be replaced regardless of what condition they're in. All of these look great, except for that one there. It's jizzing its shmoo all over the place. There's a little bit of a browning on that white wire right there. But all these caps will be replaced with brand new electrolytic capacitors. Even though that's the only one that looks like it's dead, I guarantee none of these are working very well. Okay? They've been in here since 1975. And again, some of you might say, oh, it's original, keep it original. Screw you guys. It's not a gallery item. It's not a piece of amplifier history that I'm going to keep by sitting on a shelf. I'm going to use this to gig. And I want it to be reliable, and I want it to be like the day it came out of the factory, i.e. brand new. So these caps are going to get replaced, all of them. Now let's look at the other side and see what the caps look like here. Yep, they're all okay. I think I see, yep, there's a bit of shmoo on that as well. Let me see if I can focus in on that. There we go. So this cap's leaking some jizz. The rest of these all look okay. And that cap there is leaking some jizz. I think that's a 70 microfarad cap, if I remember correctly. So there are two 70 microfarad caps. These three here, I don't know yet. I'll have a look and see. And then the one on the end here, I believe, is a 30 or 35. Let's have a look. 16. There we go. 475 volt, 16 microfarad. Anyway, getting replaced. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is just quickly look at some of these tubes. So I'm going to go straight to V4. Let me focus in on that correctly. V4 looks like, and the other reason I'm going to take all the tubes out is not because I'm going to replace them, but because Philips 12AT7. Okay, so the 12AT7 is the phase inverter, and it's a Philips. That's interesting. So that's, I don't believe that is Sorry, I was just looking at that off camera. I don't believe that's original, because the originals are all RCA, unless that's just, you know, Fender put in what they had on hand. The pins look okay, not corroded, a slight little bit of, let's have a closer look here. Let's focus in on this properly, there we go. So the pins look good, they're not corroded or anything, they're just tarnished from, you know, being in an amp for the last 30 odd years, maybe more. What do you say, 1975 amp, and what year is this? 2018. So 75 to 85 is 10 years, 95 is 20 years, 2005 is 30 years, 2015 is 40 years. This amp is 43 years old, ladies and gentlemen, and it has the original tubes. So, you know, expect a lot of things that are gonna be replaced, and I'm just gonna put this tube back in the right way because I don't want to bend any of the pins. Give it a wiggle as you put it in. That's what she said. Alright, so first things first, need to replace all these capacitors. That's easy because, you know, turret board, you don't even have to go on the other side of the chassis and start removing bits and pieces and wires. Now, I don't know when this amp was last turned on. It could have been turned on yesterday before I bought it off the guy. It could have been turned on 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago. The guy said he did not use it for 25 years. However, I am still going to go through and drain the filter caps because any voltage that's in here is going to give me a very, very loving and gentle shock. And when I say gentle, you watch these videos, and I'm sure, well, I've seen these videos too, okay, before I started making them. Everyone always says, be careful. Do not touch these caps. Find out if there's any voltage in them. Use your multimeter and figure it out. And then, if you do see voltage in them, even if you don't, you know, grab a resistor, get yourself a 5 watt or 10 watt resistor, solder an alligator clip to it. Okay, cover it in heat shrink so you can touch it without electrocuting yourself. I usually put 2 or 3 layers of heat shrink, and you put one alligator clip on the positive side, and the other alligator clip, you just ground it or something. Okay, and what it does is it just releases all the pent-up energy inside these caps, if there is any. You don't want to risk it. You will die. It is fatal. The warnings on the back of these that say no user serviceable parts and, you know, electric shock may occur and might be fatal, it's true. Okay? It hurts at the very best. Now, I'm going to put the phone down for a second, now that that warning is out of the way, and we're going to flip it over and have a look at the original goodness. Okay? 1 sec. You can get a lovely view of my jeans as I turn this amp around. It's bloody heavy. I tell you what, there's something to be said about those D-class, you know, 800 watt things that you can buy these days. Okay, and here is the lovely view of the inside. I'm going to take you through a tour from the preamp stage. Okay, you've got your tone stack up here. Okay, this is all original. This has never been touched. I'll give you a bird's eye view of the whole amp while I move my legs because they've fallen asleep from being cross-legged for so long. There it is, ladies and gentlemen, in its glory, in its beautiful out-of-focus glory. Let me fix that. Here it is. Here's the whole chassis. So on the left-hand side, we have our power transformer that comes in. Okay. Power transformer comes in, and it goes to the power switch down at the bottom left. That's the red switch. That red switch is the voltage conversion. I'll come down and show you. So, you know, this is an international amp, ladies and gentlemen. I can tour with this amp, hey? Hey? Touring. International touring. Any international acts need a bass player, call me now. So I can preset that voltage. Next we have, this is the ground switch, and then here we have the on switch and the standby switch, and the fuse in the middle there. So looking at this from a bird's eye view, what happens is, let's focus again. There we go. Power comes in on the left hand side through those braided wires here into the voltage selection switch, which converts or changes, switches over the different taps that transformer is going to run in. Okay, from then on it goes into the fuse, or possibly, I haven't even looked at this wiring yet, into the on switch and then into the fuse. Then you got a little ground switch there. I'm assuming that's a ground lift, maybe. We'll check that out in a second. It's got a little capacitor hanging off it. Okay. And then, you know, it goes back into the transformer. It does its little transformer awesomeness in there and converts things over. And then it comes out and it goes to a whole bunch of other stuff. Now, one of those things, the white wires are our connection to the pilot light, so the power light that tells us the amp is on. And then the rest of the white wires running along the bottom there are not braided, but twisted to cancel out any hum. And they are the heater wires for every single tube. So those are the 6.3 volt wires. Okay, coming out of the top here, we can look at this section here with all these little silver tubes. They are our original diodes. Okay, so this is a diode rectification, not tube rectification. It's a bass amp after all. Excuse me. We don't want we don't want sag. We don't want that tube rectifier sag that we get from a tube rectifier. So diode rectification, I'm happy about that. I believe, now I've been trying to figure out what's going on here, but I believe that's called the death cap. So I'm going to figure out how to remove that because I don't want anything that says the word death inside this amp. I believe that's the death cap. I could be wrong. I'll double check. I'm not going to remove it if it isn't. And then so we got a little bit of filtering there on the little rectifier section. Then, you know, we jump off and we got wires that go into the turret board, or the some sort of board. This is not a turret board because there's no turrets on it. Eyelet board. And then, you know, they go all to the various valves and bits and pieces. Now, looking through the amp here, you can see these little beautiful vintage blue capacitors. Okay, these all need to be replaced. It's sad, and it saddens me too. I know I had a go earlier about people who, you know, want the amp to remain vintage and all that stuff. The reality is I am going to use this amp. I am going to play it. So, what is going to happen is every single cap on here is going to get replaced. Every single one. Okay, not in this video, I have to order the parts. Okay, but in the meantime, this amp will not get turned on because the filter caps that I originally showed you on the other side, they need to be replaced. Alright, the other thing I'm unaware of is if these tone pots and volume pots and everything are okay. They might not be. They might be crackly, they might be horrible, they might be dead, they might be done. So I'm sorry, I was just looking at this cap here and I could see a wire coming off, but I wasn't sure if it was broken or what, but it's fine. Those sort of caps last a while, these disc caps, but the rest of these drops, these blue drops, they're going to get replaced, unfortunately. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to say, even if they are good, they are just too old and too unreliable. The last thing I want is my amp on stage, and I'll sort of scroll this camera up the chassis as we move along. Hopefully in focus for some description. I don't want this amp dying on stage. I don't want this amp to be unreliable, and I don't want this amp to concern me or worry me or make me feel like I don't trust it. So all the caps are going to be replaced. That'll be part 2 of the video. This suspicious death cap, I'm assuming that's a death cap. It's a cap that's just going straight to ground, and the positive side is soldered to ground. Is that the death cap? I don't know. I've heard a lot about it, but I've never actually come across an amp with one. And the cap here on the rectification board is going to get replaced too. So lots of capacitors. There's probably a couple of $100 worth of caps here because it's going to cost about $100 in capacitors just to replace the filter caps on the bottom and the rest of these caps as well. So This is a fun job, Now, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this tour of this Fender Bassman 50. I'm going to put it half back together to avoid losing any parts, and then I'm going to start ordering parts. And my next installment of this video will be me putting the amp on the bench and replacing all the caps, every single one of them. Good news is, this is an eyelet board. All I got to do is put a bit of solder there, or put my soldering iron there, lift this leg up, put some soldering iron there, lift this leg up, and do the same for every single cap. Unlike a modern amp with a circuit board, with surface mount components and all that sort of wizardry, this amp will be easy to work on. It is still a big, expensive job though. So when an amp tech says to you, the recap is going to cost you $300-400, look, it's going to cost you at least about $100 in parts and a couple of $100 in labour. I'm talking about Australian labour. It might be a little bit cheaper in other countries, but it isn't in Australia. So thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed this preliminary tour of the Fender Bassman 50, and next video will be part 2 of me pulling out the caps and then replacing them all. And I'll probably do a little bit of speeding up in that video because you don't really need to watch someone soldering for 2 hours. And then part 3 will be the video of me putting the amp back together and probably giving it a quick rundown, checking the bias, adjusting the bias, and then having a play. So thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this video, and look out for the next one. See you soon. Bye bye.